Welcome to our Wired for Wellbeing podcast. You're here with me, Sheila Massand, and my wonderful co-founder. This podcast is sponsored by the Viva Rent, and we are both co-founders. So my wonderful business partner in this venture, Sue Cotman, is here.
Hello, and we're very, very fortunate and pleased that we have Connor with us this afternoon, Connor Moylan. We've recently spent time with Connor and feel we've really got to know him quite well. But just in terms of his background, he's still very young. He's very mature, but he's very young. Everyone's young to me. But what's to know about Connor is that he's been involved in working in communities, largely underserved communities, and that ranges from primary to secondary education, community groups from the local area. And he's basically, we can tell he's passionate about helping people to see their innate resilience, which is what we're pointing to with this podcast, is that people are not broken and they don't need fixing, but we're just delighted to have you, Connor, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say about some of your experiences and what you've seen and what you've understood about the principles.
Hi. Thank you for introducing me. I'm 28. I get told a lot of the time I look younger, which I'm okay with. And yeah, I've got a variety of different kind of jobs per se. I work within the community for Living Truth. I'm one half of that. And it's a family company that we've grown, and it stems from our understanding of the three principles. So everything we touch, everything we do is embedded within the principles. So we work with underserved communities, like Sue said. We work on two really big estates in South London. At the minute, we touch further than just those two estates. But though that's our main hub that we work within. And that is half of my job, and then the other half of my job, I work in South London in a pupil referral unit. And we have shared the principles in there as well. So yeah.
Brilliant. And we've known each other quite a while, and that's why we've been so impacted and inspired by the fact that you're so young and that you're doing this work in community. And I know you have one-to-ones and the CIC that you're working with. That's why we invited you to be a speaker at Viva this year, which we're really excited about. And I don't know the answer to this question, so I'm curious. Were you so impacted in terms of your own personal changes that you've seen in your life that you wanted to introduce this to other people, or did it work the other way around?
A bit of both, really. I think through growing up, having so many different therapies when I was younger, not really knowing kind of what was wrong with me, but now I can say there was nothing really wrong. It was just where my thinking was at and the place I was in. Um, I think I kind of searched to be fixed, and I think every place I went to, I was searching for this thing that would kind of fix this thing because I thought something was wrong with me. Now I know, and I think what I've truly known all along was I was always okay. But I think coming across the principles was quite weird for me because I had a lot of different therapies, counseling, you name it. I tried it. And I got to a space in my life where I was still quite young and I was going off to uni. And I got to a space where I felt that I was okay and I didn't want to be around any counseling therapies. I thought, you know what, none of this stuff has really worked. But I thought, yeah, I want to just move on with life. Sorry about the noise. But yeah, I wanted to move on with life, and my mum had come across the principles, and she was doing she's the other half of Living Truth. She had come across the principles and she wanted to share it with me. but not to kind of give me anything, but more of a support for her because she was sharing it in small groups. And I think that led me to reluctantly going to support her at one of these things just as a person to just sit there and say, you know, I'll support my mum. And I heard something and it kind of dropped a seed that grew up into a huge thing that's basically where my life has gone now, where I work in communities, we work with different people from all types of places, and it basically leads everything we share and we do. So yeah, I'd say that the place I've come from, it's definitely helped me realize that when I was young, if I had come across the principles maybe at a younger age and being more aware of that, there's actually nothing wrong with me. My thinking is happening and I don't need to buy into it. And as simple as that sounds, I think that's the beauty of the principles of you don't go to someone in the principles to be fixed. You're just facilitating a space or sharing a space with someone and connecting with them, and they're able to realize that they don't need anything outside of them. And I think that's what was, I don't know if it was a selling point, but it was a selling point for me because I think everything else I'd been to in my life was, well, this has happened because of this, and you're like the way you are because of this. And I think it was quite weird to go from all of that to actually being told, no, actually you're perfectly fine the way you are. You're just experiencing a lot of different thoughts and feelings, and you don't really know how to operate, engage them, and understand that they're just happening naturally, and you don't need to buy into them. So yeah, I think that's why we created Living Truth. Um, my visions may be different from my mum's, but um, it's called Living Truth. She gave it the name. But over the years, I've become more and more aware of why we are called Living Truth because of our own experiences and because of the truth that we share within ourselves, but also the lived in experience of what we've been through in our own lives as a family, but also personally. And yeah, I think the reason I share it now, I'd say, is not only to help other people, but to I feel like there's a real sense of a loss of community in the place I live anyway. I live in London, it's a big city. And I think if you can help share the principles with one person, it helps their life. I think that's hugely great. And I think if it helps no one, but they get them to come out of their house and share part of a community, just as well, that's good as well for me.
You said something at the beginning about you thought you always knew. So at some level that you always knew you were okay. And I was just wondering, when you work with young people, do you see that in them, that somehow they have a knowing that hasn't come into consciousness, or however you might describe it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's actually easier to share this with younger people, especially the younger you go. I think when you get to the teenage years, there's a lot of different things going on in their life. The hormones are growing up, the experience of secondary school and adapting into adulthood. But I think definitely when you go into a younger age demographic, I think they already know. They're living the principles. We all live in the principles, but I think as you get older, there's more conditioning, there's more things per se to potentially worry about, bills, you name it. But I think as a kid, when you watch a kid in the playground, they fall over, they hurt themselves, they cry for about 5 seconds, and then that moment has literally passed and then playing again. And that's how life is working beautifully for them because what happened 5 minutes ago is not no longer even existing for them. And I think when we have shared this with younger people, um, they get it straight away. They're almost sharing it with us and teaching. Well, I don't really like the word teaching, but I like the word sharing, and they share with me, and I get so many insights from them because they are walking with all of life within them perfectly in the way it was intended to. So yeah, I think the younger we go, definitely, um, they just see this instantly. It's almost like you're speaking it to them and they're like saying, yeah, we know this already. So this is quite interesting and quite cool.
Do you point some of the older students back to regard their childhood. It's not that long, past,
Mm.
is it? I wondered if you're being refreshed with that all the time. Does that help you to then, when you're working with, because I mean, regardless of circumstances, what we are discovering is this works across the board because all human beings have the same system behind them, the less or more conditioning. So is that a thing that's helpful to you to point out to the older ones?
100%. Not only their childhood, but like you said, this is for everyone. It's happening whether you know it to be true or not to be true. And I think the reason I would say it's harder with the older ones is because I think you don't have to buy into this to believe it or see it. But I think, especially the kids I work with, a lot of them are quite reluctant to even listen to someone. And I think that's why I would never walk in a room and try and just push the 3Ps on anyone. I don't think you should push on anyone anyway, but I think pointing them in a direction of connection. And I think the biggest thing that we actually do in our work is feeding people. And at the base of all of the operations of what we do, whether it be taking families away on trips out that they never would have been able to afford, whether it be actually being able to afford to take them to Viva and going on holiday, because we brought a few of our community mums to Viva last year and they loved it. I think giving them opportunities and letting that unfold for them and letting them see their own wisdom and just being in the space, I think, is enough. I think sometimes you don't even have to talk to the principals by teaching someone, but just showing up in yourself and the principles and letting people, it's kind of a gravitational pull. People want to be around you. They want to see what you see. They want to see how you operate in life. And I think when you build that rapport with someone, they're much more willing to hear what you have to say, especially young people. They they have got their own. I'm young myself, and I think one of the funniest things I think I've heard was when I walked into the pupil referral unit that I work in. A lot of people often say to me, "Oh, yeah, you'll connect with them because you're young," and I find it quite funny because it's actually no, they can actually smell if you actually care or not. They'll know that straight away. And I could be 20, I could be 58, it wouldn't matter. As long as they know I'm actually there to help them, to actually want to be there for them, and I'm not there to either collect money or just to tick a box. I think that's the bigger difference than obviously my age does help because I might know certain brands or certain topics that I can build rapport with them. But I think, yeah, getting back to that point of pointing them in the direction of how they were when they were younger, I think that is so helpful because I think it takes away all of the kind of trouble of maybe a teenager's mind. And I think making it light-hearted and silly and connecting with them is more important than anything.
Beautiful, beautiful. It's funny, yeah. I am, when you say I am young, I can see you. I am a young person. You are a young person to us for sure. You mentioned the referral unit that you work in, and I'm curious, do you have a story that you could share with us and our audience on some life-changing or slight change, a glimpse that somebody has had that's made a big difference in their life?
Yeah, I think we've worked with loads of different kids over the years. Um, it's change a lot of different things because of the things in place with management, the way the school functions, the role you have, how much time you actually allowed to spend with a one-on-one child over a course of time, and then obviously you get given a new set of kids. But a story, I think one of the most empowering stories I've seen was we separated it. So I basically did the one-to-ones and the youth work with the young people and Peggy would do the family work. But at the beginning, just before COVID, we we had a young person who was experiencing huge amount of bullying, huge amount of racism, um, in their area. And Peggy went out to see the family and she connected with them, build rapport. So this is kind of how we work. And I think the kid was kind of labeled at school as a really bad kid, like um you name it, they've done it. They're kicking down doors, like smashing up the school. And this this child was basically told that they weren't going to be able to go back to mainstream. And that is often the case for a lot of the students we work with. Um, and slowly but surely, this kid started to get more quiet. And people in the workplace didn't know what was going on. And it might not have been us, but we think it was down to having conversations and connecting, because I think everyone saw that person as a real, like, Red Bull in a China shop. I think they saw it was almost like when they come in, the alarm bells start ringing. It's like, when is it going to go off? And I think that kid slowly got quieter and quieter, and they eventually went back to mainstream. And I don't think we didn't even really do much, I'll be honest. It was more of a case of that kid had seen something for themselves and they realized, I don't want to be what my labels are. I don't want to give people the satisfaction of labeling me with that term and realizing that I'm not that. And I think people in the workplace that we work in might not have thought it's anything to do with us. They might have thought kids just growing up, year 10's coming around the corner, they want to get their life together. And if that's what people believe, I'm happy to feel that. But um, I think that kid saw something for themselves, and I think it helped even more so the fact that the work we'd done in the house. I think once you build that trust with a kid's family, them seeing that, oh no, you're different, you're actually here to help real life issues that mum and dad are going through, or carers, or brother and sister, or community. I think when you break down those kind of things, the kid is more open to seeing you as a person of, okay, I'm going to let you in and I'm going to have a conversation with you. So yeah, I think if there was one story, I'd say that it's definitely that, the the person changing and actually growing up and getting back to mainstream when everyone said they weren't going to.
One of the things I've worked in pupil referral units, as you know, and I think one of the things that really helped me as a teacher was understanding, through my understanding of the principles, about the idea that things, it's not an idea, the truth, that it's not personal. And that's a huge, huge step, that if you can take that step, the world shifts. And I wondered if you would subscribe to that as a part of how you stay buoyant, because, lots of teachers don't stay buoyant and they find it all very stressful and, day after day with this onslaught. And I never found that. And I think that's because I could see that. And I wondered, is that something you recognize?
Yeah, 100%. I think the hardest part about the position I've got in this school is that I'm on the ground with the teachers every single day. And whether it be the TAs, the teachers, the students, I think it is kind of like a cauldron. It's a mix of different things every day. Every single day poses a new thing. And I think day to day, it's really hard for everyone, not only just the teachers, but the students themselves, to stick to something that doesn't suit them. And I think when you have teachers that have to get certain marks or certain grades or a certain piece of work off a student, but the student doesn't want to sit in the room, um, it's so easy to label the kid with troubled, bad, whatever you name it. And I think it is hard because there's not a lot of staff to deal with every single student one-on-one. Ideally, that's what you want, because then you'd be able to get someone who's got rapport with that student and see what is going on. And I think it's really, really hard for teachers because they've got it on both ends. Like, I think a lot of teachers probably go into the job wanting to make a difference, wanting to change, wanting to give inspiration to the next generation that are coming through. But then you're obviously hit with a lot of different things from your superiors. And then the personal thing, you could be, we're humans at the end of the day as well. I think I know that I've never really taken anything personal to kids. Like, I get called names every single day, and then they still tell me, I love you. And it's funny and some of the teachers, they take it so personal. And I'm not going to say I've never taken anything personal, because I'm human as well, but I'm so quick to realize that they don't mean anything they say. They're just saying it in the heat of the moment. And I think if there's one thing that we could help, it would be going into more schools, more practices with young people, and sharing that with the staff, because that is the biggest thing. It's the key. It's the key. It's one of the keys, should I say, to breaking that relationship between a staff member who kind of looks at a student as like, I don't like that student. No, you don't like the behavior of that student, and the behavior of that student has probably nothing to do with you. But over the course of time, they've realized that you're the way you're showing up, and they're realizing they probably don't want to be around you as much as you don't want to be around them. But at the start of it, it was nothing to do with you. It's the way they woke up at home, or something going on at home, or they just woke up in a different vibe today. And I think, yeah, taking the personal out of it and realizing that it has nothing to do with you. It's just we're there at that moment in time, and being able to realize that in live time, that would take away a lot of problems and a lot of labeling and a lot of putting kids in the same box and pushing kids into pupil referral units, because a lot of them we've experienced came into the pupil referral unit because they were put in a category of bad kid when really they just have additional needs.
You know what? Something that struck me that you just said, and I presume you know you said it, but you said they say something, they call me names, and then they always say I love you, and that struck me because I don't know, I don't think I ever told one of my teachers that I love them ever. And so, what is it that you're talking to them about, or teaching them, or sharing with them? Because you don't like the word teaching, and I get that too. What are you sharing with them that has them feel like that? Are you talking to them about love? Are you telling them that you love them? How does that work? Because it seems unusual to me for a teaching environment for the students to be telling their teacher or their counsellor. I don't know what your title is when you're there, to be quite honest, Connor, but well, how does that work?
I think it stems from probably the staff that we've got. It's like we've got a really good group of staff who are really well balanced with the students. I think, yeah, I don't think it would be appropriate to say I love you to a member of staff. But I don't take it in a romantic or sexual way. I think what they're saying to me deep down is, I know you care, and I like that you care about my needs at school. And some of them call me ridiculous names, and they don't tell me they like me at the end of the day, and that's fine. And I remind them that I'm just there to help them with what they're doing, and also help the school. And I find it funny because we have a lot of jokes with the kids. I think one of the biggest things in our pupil referral unit is some of the kids will naturally come into the school calling us sir or miss. But everyone's on a first name basis, and that's just the way the school runs. So their English teacher, they know by their first name. The head teacher, they know by the first name. Some kids will call you sir or miss. Some kids will call you by your first name. Some kids will call you something that you don't want to be called. But it's just their way of trying to connect with you. And we have one example of a young girl that's there at the minute, and she is such a tough exterior. And every single staff member, because we have debriefs every day, straight away after the first week said she is so warm inside. She's just got this cold exterior, and it's just a front because it's a defense mechanism she's put in place. And so, but surely she wouldn't even sit in a class with me on the first 2 weeks. And now she sits next to me and talks to me and says hello. And the whole time I was just saying to her, I know you like me. We're gonna be friends. And after 3 weeks, I think she just said, "Oh, I give up." So yeah, I think it's just being consistent and knowing that no matter however they show up, yes, there is boundaries, yes, there is rules in place, there's safeguarding, but also knowing that they're a human being and however they've showed up is not reflective of who you are and who they are. So yeah.
I'm just curious that you talk. I mean, this sounds like a grand set of staff that you have there, and that's lovely. Do any members of staff sort of notice anything different about you in terms of how do you maintain that? It's not neutrality. It's just how do you maintain warmth in the face of someone being verbally aggressive or whatever, and how do you keep yourself grounded? Do they show interest, thinking that you know something they don't know?
Yeah, a few of the staff members have. When we first got there, it wasn't quite like that. It was a bit cold. We were outsiders. We weren't part of the staff core group. Because we came in and it was a bit like, who are these people? Are they going to take our jobs? Naturally, people think that. But I think building around with the staff and also one of the best things we ever did when we first came in when we was doing one-to-ones with the young people was we went into the classes. So they have um they have cooking classes. So home economics, we would go in and like we say, part of a huge part of our work is feeding people and getting to know them. So we would often go in their cooking classes. We made good rapport with their home economics teacher, um, who also uh, kind of pulled us in and like got them to learn our names and why we're there. And it's funny because people came into the school the other day, into the cooking class outside, and all the kids didn't want to speak to them. And they were literally just nurses from the NHS. But the kids naturally, their defense mechanism went up. They went, "Who are you? I don't want to speak to you. I don't know what you want from me. I don't want to talk to you about anything about my health or anything." And I had to sit with a few students, and I just remember that was me at one stage. So it's funny, yeah, but I think showing up in their classes and actually wanting to build rapport rather than just pulling them out of class, "Hi, my name is, you've got one-to-one with me." I don't think that's going to work. So showing an interest and actually, people might say it's going the extra mile, but I think it's actually taking consideration into what they're like. I want to know what they're like in maths or English or cooking. I want to see what they're like in a class to try and gauge who I am, who I'm meeting, and see how they are different with me to that class. So yeah, I think taking time out to connect with people, because I think it all falls back to what I said. I think when you show up consistently in the same way week in, week out, regardless of how if they don't show up, if they want to show up, if they show up in a really negative way, I think if you show up consistently and you show that you want to be there, I think the staff also notice it as well. I'm only there for a few days a week, but I've got a really good rapport with the staff, and actually a lot of the staff we use for a lot of our holiday programs and half-term programs. So we've poached a few, but it's in their half-term anyway, so I think they're fine with it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Connor, for showing up for us and sharing a little snippet of what you're up to every day. I still find it fascinating and inspiring, and a wealth of experience at such a young age. Again, I'm going to say that. It's just beautiful what you're doing. It's like you're in the trenches. So there's a lot of people can talk about this understanding and how life's changed for them and their own personal transformation, but you're literally, for me, it feels like you're in the trenches doing this work. So thank you for doing the work with people. Thank you for coming along to Viva this year. We're really excited to have you. And if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
I am on the Living Truth website, so they can get me there, or my email. I can plug it.
Is it livingtruth.com or livingtruth.co.uk? I can't remember.
Livingtruth .org, I think it is.
Oh, okay, great. Well, we'll put that in the show notes as well. Yeah, for sure.
Find me there.
Okay. And if anybody out there is listening and wants to find us for Viva, we're at thevivaevent.com. So yeah, we're looking forward to this year's Viva, 1st to the 3rd of November, and see you very, very soon. Thanks again, Connor.
Thank you, Connor. Thanks for all the work you're doing with these lovely young people.
Thank you.
Take care.